Welcome to Center Stage. My name is Mark Gordon. In the house is October built. 5 friends travel across America searching for the scariest haunted house. A trip leading them into the ultimate terror. Stay tuned as we go center stage with Zack Andrews and Bobby Rowe, the creative people behind the houses October built.
Center stage, center stage, center, center, center stage. Center stage.
Your characters in the film,
Correct.
they want to find the ultimate scary haunted house on Halloween.
Mm-hmm.
And so they go on this journey, and it starts out kind of fun and games. It's let's all do a road trip, but then it kind of devolves into something a little more sinister.
Well, I think the biggest thing is we wanted to recreate why you go to a haunted house in the first place. And I think to touch on the way you saw the movie as well, a lot of these movies rely on suspense, or a lot of these haunted houses rely on suspense, not a lot of blood and gore. And that being said, we wanted to kind of recreate as much of a haunted house experience as you can on screen. And so hopefully we've done that. We want to there's a lot of POV through the haunts. We wanted you to walk through with us and kind of have the same, our eyes be your eyes, and you're stuck in the same darkness with the same clowns we are. And so hopefully that experience, that Halloween experience, you can enjoy, we think, for the first time on screen. That was a big part about even creating this movie, is that as much as we've liked haunted houses growing up, it's never actually been put on the silver screen as far as we've seen. And there's Funhouse, maybe 1980, it's a carnival type movie, but the actual haunted houses, we've never seen it before. So hopefully, for Halloween's to come, you can kind of experience that if you're too afraid to go out into the country and go to some of these haunted houses, because some of them, things we found out in the movie are pretty scary.
Did you actually go to some of these haunted houses?
Yeah, these are real places.
So they were real places.
Yeah, we want the audience member to be able to live this out if they want. This is not shot at a Hollywood backlot. We found these places. They actually exist. They are in the credits. You can go to the places we shot the movie. You may run into some of the same characters that we ran into. Hopefully,
not the girl that goes, ah.
Hopefully
that is a great mask. Whatever she does, that is a great mask, and she's on your one sheet.
We also didn't want it to, if you say, well, how many, haunted houses did you go to? And you've seen the movie and you can speak to this, but I don't feel like any of the haunted houses, it's not episodic from the standpoint of each haunt has its own feel. And, we find places that aren't exactly haunts that may venture into the R-rated, X-rated category. And we found fun places like zombie paintball and, things of that nature to experience, so that it isn't, a series of just going through haunted houses. That's not what we wanted the movie to be. That's not what we wanted our own trip to be. We wanted to mix it up and show you all different ways that people celebrate the holiday.
When you see a space set, or you see all these different sets, they scream that green screen. You can see it a mile away, right? But if you kind of tackle it in the real environment with the real people, hopefully that sets you apart from a lot of found footage. Sometimes has a stigma to it. We know that. We get that. That's kind of watered down. So if you do it this way, using the real people, that's the point, right? Found footage is supposed to be real footage that was found, however you want to look at it, but it's real footage. So the best way we could do that to make it as organic as possible is to use all real people, all real places.
One thing you did, which a lot of the found footage films fail to do, is there's one point in the movie where not your film, but in these other films, where you go, okay, wait a second, who's shooting this film? Right. But you go in the beginning and you show where you're setting up all the cameras, so you kind of get that out of the way, and then you explain it, because sometimes you're going, wait a second, who's videotaping this? There was the extreme haunted place where you could go and spend the night. It was some place you could spend the night, and then they have the zombie runs, and but part of me thinks, okay, well, is it safe, or maybe it's really not safe? There's part because that's part of the scare, isn't it? That it isn't going to be safe, and that's what you guys are looking for in your film. And sometimes don't ask for what you want, because you might get it.
Yeah.
Well, I think as society in general has grown pretty numb to a lot of stuff, right? Like 3D has had its run the past 4 or 5 years. And what do we want now? 4D. There's a new 4D theater in downtown Los Angeles.
What is 4D?
4D is you get wet. Air sprays on you.
Things pop you from the back. They've actually had it at Universal Studios for a little bit. The Buzz Lightyear ride, I think, had...
Well, Disneyland, and you go on one of the rides and you feel something on the floor.
Exactly.
So now they have movie theaters that do that. A friend of mine called me. He lives down in Sao Paulo, Brazil, and they already have you watched X-Men that way. And so you're getting shot in the back of the seat. Your seats are moving. And I think what I'm trying to say is that the 3D, the illusion wasn't enough anymore. Now we need to feel it, taste it. And I think the same thing goes for haunts. We started off trick-or-treating. Now we had to build these haunts. We walked through guys with sheets. And then it kind of kept escalating. And, we found a place that they turn the lights off on you, go in one by one, you take off your shoes, and you hear squish, 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 lights come on. There's 1,000 used condoms on the ground. And you paid for that.
Are you serious?
Oh, yeah, you paid for that.
That didn't end up in the film.
No. There are haunt owners, though, that they said that people will come to them and say, we want it more extreme.
Really?
And so then, the guy said he'll clear it out for a group, one particular group of, 5 or 6 guys. And he said they really mess him up.
In the movie, the guy said he'd do everything short of gang rape somebody. And that was real.
Yeah.
That was a real interview.
Well, what is it about being scared? I mean, what is it about people wanting to go through that experience? Because Halloween, I don't really like Halloween, right, but it's the gore, people with the severed arms and heads. But really, if that happened to them in real life, they wouldn't want it. No. But what is the attraction to it?
I've always heard psychologically that it's why was so much nudity, especially in the 80s with horror films, is because nudity and gore or just actually being threatened, a scare, actually piques you in the same way, even though it's two completely separate things. So especially those 80s slashers, you went from boobs to kill to boobs to kill, boobs to kill, and yet you didn't think you were getting, it wasn't overdone at the time, but they're actually hitting the same like endorphins along the way.
Crazy.
Yeah.
Tell me about the challenges that went into making the film.
Well, I mean, we started off with an extremely small cast and crew, and so then it was that we were doing all the jobs all at once, and then we moved on to kind of make the more studio version of the movie that you saw, and now we're dealing with a crew of 100. So you have more money to spend, but when you have the small crew, you've got to be a lot more creative with how you spend your money. And when you've got the big crew, you've got to keep everybody, you're herding sheep to a degree.
Well,
so
mixed with that though, shooting anything seasonally is really tough, because if you miss that shot, if you there's no going back. Come November 1st, these places, most of them, are closed, and you're not going to be able to recreate that same Halloween ambiance that you had. I mean, you can try to bring in actors, you can try to bring in everybody. It's not going to feel right, and that was just a tough thing for us. But it made us very efficient.
You had the people that did the Paranormal Activity. They produced the film, right?
Yeah, Steven Schneider.
When did he get on board? From day one, or?
From the original film. He actually, a quote I always like to say is that the first time he ever called me, which I think will speak to you, is he said, what I love about this movie is it's actually real until it isn't.
Because that's what the first one, that Paranormal Activity was creepy.
Right, the first one, they did a great job.
Right.
You felt like you were in the home with them. You understood. It was very voyeuristic, and they never went too far. I mean, to your blood and guts comment, they don't really do that. I mean, there's one scene at the end, but mostly it was your imagination, which I think that we've kind of lost in a lot of these films. The CGI is over the top. Mm-hmm. You're not using your imagination, and that's what you need to scare you.
But this film, I was watching it. It was one of those. This is creepy. It's creepy. And it was very compelling.
Cool. That's nice to hear. Thank you.
Yeah, you guys did an excellent job.
Thank you.
Excellent job. You look so serious.
Yeah.
he's here. Oh my! You know what this is like? This is like the doll with the thing with the mask. He's not going to follow me, is he?
Was it coincidence that we followed you up here?
That was a funny bit. These two guys are running. They don't know who I am, but I knew who they are because I saw their pictures. And they're all out of breath, and I'm out of breath because it's 7 o'clock. The show starts at 7, and I go, "Hey, whoa! Show doesn't start without me. You guys are okay." We were all late. So much for half-hour call.
Yeah, tried.
Yeah.
So why are you not a Halloween fan?
Because people are normally crazy, and I just don't. That whole thing. I mean, one Halloween I got shot, but this
Okay,
guy.
hold on. You got to start with that.
Yeah, no, but
It all comes back to a negative experience.
well, it was,
Well, not
and the
getting
thing is,
shot. I
no,
didn't
the
think you
thing
got
is, I didn't
shot.
get physically shot, but the guy, we're at this party, and this guy leaves, and then he comes back, and he had a pistol, but it was filled with blanks. But he shoots me, but I felt the burn of the whatever the blank is.
Right.
But the guy's, he's all drunk. I mean, I just don't like it.
Right.
I just think people are crazy.
Yeah.
And
Well,
they're giving them license to be crazy.
That's what part of this movie is for us, is that, all these movies that are, vampires and werewolves and things like that scares some people. But when you're a real person that has a mask, that can be a lot scarier, because it is real. Things do happen in these places, and if it's not supernatural, but you're actually dealing with real human beings, that can be scarier,
Well,
as you witnessed.
Right. There's an interview in the movie where the guy was court-appointed community service to go work in a haunted house. And what we figured out is that 80%.
Oh, he was a criminal?
Yeah, 70 to 80% of these haunts.
Was that a real guy that you interviewed?
that was real. Yeah.
So the people that you interviewed in the film, they weren't actors. Those were real people.
Those are real. Yeah, those are real. And what we found out is that 70% of these haunts are charity run. So therefore, in the judge's eyes, he thought he was doing charity service by giving a felon a rubber knife to
it's
go
like
chase
volunteering
some kids
at the Red Cross. I mean, you could do your community service that way. Well, you can do your community service working at a haunted house.
Does anyone ever get killed at a haunted house?
Accidents have happened.
Yeah, there's a girl hung herself accidentally trying to make it look more real, and they said that people walked right past her, not knowing if she was a prop or not. They didn't know.
See, the thing is, they're not supposed to touch you, but sometimes they touch you.
The
Right?
rules changed. I
Has
think
it?
In the 80s, they could, and then it all stopped. Right now, it's no holds barred.
People advertise for it.
I actually worked in one, I think, for the YMCA, and I was in the black light room.
Nice. Something else that scarred you from Halloween.
Yeah, but it was fun, because I was an actor.
Yeah.
If you're an actor, it's fun to do those types of things to scare people.
Oh, yeah.
Well, that's the thing too. Like, let's say acting, but even more so, we started talking to these people outside the haunt. Turns out one of the guys was special forces. One of them was a nurse. One of them was a dentist. Can you imagine your dentist picturing him moonlighting with a zombie makeup on? All of them are very regular people with extraordinary jobs. Especially the special forces thing. That's a little freaky.
What freaked you out the most about going across? Because did you go from LA to Louisiana or no?
Yeah, we started.
So you really did.
Oh, yeah.
You did. Zach?
No,
Zach?
I'm laughing because I said earlier today that we shot the RV scenes.
Don't play poker with Zach, man. I don't know, because there's something kind of little strange here. You can't really tell. He doesn't move his forehead, does he? His eyebrows don't move. You got the Botox or something? No.
That's where I show my age. I've got the lines on the forehead.
No, I don't know. He's serious, isn't he?
It's
He has producer
intensity.
cap on.
Oh, he does?
Yeah.
Look at him. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to. So tell me, so what you...
in the traveling is when we actually shot the RV scenes where we're, interacting with each other and kind of laying down some of the groundwork. We shot those on the way from Dallas to Houston. So because we had to shoot everything at night to capture all we could in the haunts, we had to shoot those day scenes. We didn't have time to stop and shoot those. We had to shoot them as we were traveling. So we actually did take this journey.
We're about to do it again.
So this was a road pick, really a road pick.
Yeah.
How long were you on the road?
3 weeks.
Yeah.
3 weeks?
Yeah.
So you got one woman and a bunch of guys.
Yeah.
Yeah, but Brandy is just one of the guys.
Brandy's
She's fantastic.
I was gonna
look
say,
like
how's
one-
he going to
she
choose
doesn't
his
look like
words
one of
right,
the
guys?
She does not look like one of the guys, but that's what's good. I mean, as beautiful as she is, but she's the only person that probably could put up with us for 3 weeks. You know what I mean? Like that was tough to do. But I think her biggest trait was she's very engaging and also very disarming to a lot of these guys, and I don't think they even remembered what they were saying on camera.
Oh, you mean to the people that...
Right.
Now, what did you do about releases and all that?
Oh, we got releases from
So did you, before you interviewed them or after? Because that always gets sketchy when
Yeah.
you want to get it before,
gotta
right?
go before.
Yeah.
Yeah.
See, if I would have been asking the questions, no one would have said anything, would they? They would have
Yeah.
seen my intensity and not.
Yeah, he's
not
intense.
giving me
He's
anything.
intense. I'm freaking out over here, man.
We had to have the girl. That would.
Yeah.
Brandy was fantastic, and she was able to kind of open up the door and open up a lot of these guys to tell us maybe stories maybe they shouldn't have.
Did you ever freak yourself out though when you're out there so you go and you do the shoot and then you come back?
Yeah.
And were there any time where you got a little freaked out yourself?
I think honestly, the scariest parts for me were the interviews, hearing what real people had to say.
What was one of the things that really freaked you out with what they said?
One guy saying that he actually has done a tour with the chain on the chainsaw.
Just to see if he could get away with it. You know how you take the chain off, you can make
tour.
It still makes a sound without the chain on it, but he said he did a haunt tour with actual patrons inside, and he left it on, and he was proud of it, like the way he put up his middle finger, or like he thought that was really cool. And then another guy had he said one part of a human remain inside his haunt, which I can't imagine what that smelled like, but
Well, Harmony Korine did a movie called Gummo. Do you know Harmony Korine?
I remember the cat scene.
Well, the cat scene, but also there was they had the cockroach house, and they found, I think it was a severed finger under a couch.
Yeah.
oh, what about the guy at the wax museum too? There was an
To your severed finger thing. That's what's funny is what's left behind. They said, and a lot of it they talked about being urban legend, but we heard the story over and over, and we kind of looked it up. But they were making $6 million man, and they brought in a bunch of wax figures just from an old wax museum that had been torn down, and it was so hot, and I think they were shooting in the Texas heat. The wax started deteriorating and melting, and in one of them there was bone underneath, and they ended up finding there was a real dead body underneath it. And it's funny, back there's no protocol there they probably took a lot of the townspeople that died, and just instead of putting them they put them in an empty coffin and then went and waxed them.
It's Vincent Price. Vincent Price was near that. Vincent Price. He was signing a book because it was a cookbook. But when I was a kid, those Dr. Phibes movies, and I loved all that stuff. So he was doing a book signing in Torrance. So I remember going over there, and I was terrified. I didn't even get near, but because he was very, very. That was Dr. Phibes. That was House of Usher.
Well, all those paintings too. Those 50s posters. We had an artist, Dave Grizzle, had done, and I always dreamed of an old Vincent Price poster for this. Like, I just like the idea of that throwback, even if it's not what's used, but a painting like that. And it's not going to fly with today's time as much, but, with some of the Mondo artwork and stuff like that coming back, who knows one day. I would love to have like a special edition version of that, but that to me was always just very, very much horror and what probably interested me as a child.
How'd the film test? And being in the back of the theater, watching the film screen to an audience, what was that experience like?
We did a night vision, like the audience reaction stuff. So that's really fun to watch because we know the movie so well, knowing certain parts. And then I think a lot of it, what I like to see is there's a lot of cringing where people just start slithering back in their seat. Not as much all the boo, stuff where they jump, but you can see the tension, you can see the clenching of the fist, that kind of stuff. That's kind of nice for me because some of the walk around the corner screams are just they're cheap to me, and hopefully we have something a little more visceral.
This one girl in this mask, if it is a girl, that costume, so she was just somebody that was there, or was that your doing?
No, she was she works at the haunt. We had incorporated a scene around her. And frankly, I mean, that idea, when you see her eyes, I think that's what freaks us out. I mean, when you look at something like that, and then you look at, let's say, a movie with just a boring old doll that could or could not be coming out this Friday. It's
always $1 a kid, right? It's always in all these horror movies, it's always $1 a kid.
Yeah. And because that, I think that even just that children's, even the Freddy Krueger rhyme where the kids are 1, 2, Freddy's coming for you, doing the jumper.
Because it's that innocence. People are freaked out about the innocence.
That will always stick with me.
Great title. The house is October built.
I'm glad you say that.
Oh, you came up with that one, right?
Well, no, but because I can see how we talked about this today. You know, there's certain people that don't like it. It's a mouthful, but I don't know if they understand the saying, and they don't understand what it's kind of referencing. So I appreciate you saying that.
Well, it all makes sense.
Right.
Because Halloween, the haunted house. If you could change one thing about the film, what would you do?
We talked about, I always wanted to do back in 1985, Clue apparently had all these different endings at different theaters, which I always thought was the coolest, most brilliant thing to do, because I can see people going out to dinner and arguing who was the murderer, who was the killer. That kind of thing would have been a lot of fun. And I think with the different haunts that we went to, you could have done that, but that creates a whole different budget. That creates a whole different thing. But that just would have kind of been a fun way to end this.
And to play with the media, you know, to read a review on the movie that you saw that's talking about it ending a certain way that you just watched it and it didn't end that way. I think that would be a pretty cool discovery, you know, to kind of play with.
Well, when Blair Witch Project came out, that whole thing, they put out these promo reels, and it looked like it was real.
Right.
They set the audience up.
They were perfect. Right at 99, right where the internet was starting to matter, but people didn't, even the word Googling something, it didn't work, so you couldn't fact check the same way.
Right.
I think in today's time, you do that right away, you know it was a hoax. But it was the perfect timing for those guys. Very, very smart, and it duped most people. It did very, very well, and it's kind of a staple.
So that's why we were trying to raise the bar and say, because from frame one, Blair Witch is fake, but I mean our movie's not fake. So it just pushes that line a little bit of where things turn. You know.
I like it. I'm gonna have to go back and watch it again. The House is October Built is currently streaming on Amazon Prime. Until next time, this is Mark Gordon, and I'll see you center stage.
Center stage, center stage, center, center, center stage. Center stage.
Hello, this is Homer Simpson. Whenever I want to know what's going on in the entertainment world, I listen to Center Stage with Mark Gordon.